Well, joining us now with more on the company is Neil Currie. He's Global Head of Customer Research at Dahlman Rose Co. So, Neil, let's get right to it. Investors like this report. Do you? Are they right to be sending the stock up about 5% here?
I think so, Carla. I think the stock was very cheap going into earnings, but there was a lot of skepticism about Walmart's sales growth in the U.S.
Perhaps, well, and with good reason, right? Those sales numbers have not been great.
No, they haven't. They've had about 8-9 straight quarters of comp store sales declines. But in the meantime, earnings have been growing very steadily, and in this quarter, earnings grew by 12.5%. But the reassuring part of earnings were that through the quarter, it seemed that sales started to improve, and it looks as if that improvement's going into August as well.
Neil, if we, we're continuing to hear more and more forecasts for another recession here. Is that good for Walmart, at least relative to its competitors, or is it bad for them, like bad for everybody?
Well, it's always bad for everybody, but from a relative point of view, I think the Walmart customer, particularly at the low end of their customer spectrum, has been in recession for a long time. So I'm not sure it's going to make too much of a difference. I think the middle-income shopper, seeing all the negative headlines, might be more willing to go back into Walmart as they did do in '09.
Well, it's interesting because Walmart has been taking a lot of different initiatives, right? Bringing back some products and so on and so forth. Would you say then, Neil, that those initiatives by the company are working at this point?
It's early days. I mean, obviously, the negatives look as if they're becoming a bit less negative, but it looks as if the early signs are that putting products back in the store are helping. And I think as we get into the holiday season and they start to shout a bit more about what they've been doing and shout a bit more about their price reductions, I think that might help further.
Well, what is it that you worry about with Walmart? I mean, it's funny, we kind of watched them through the recession and the crisis and so on and so forth. And I mean, we saw the dollar stores do very, very well at this point. Is that who they have to watch, or is it the Targets of this world that they have to watch?
I think it's everybody. I think there's a nagging question about whether that large box format is still relevant for everybody. I mean, these are all marginal questions, but at the end of the day, 12.5% earnings growth isn't to be sneezed at. And also the dividend's growing above over 20%, and it's yielding almost 3%. It seems like a good place to put money right now.
Neil, how does M&A play into Walmart's strategy? Carrefour, the bid for Carrefour, is that a growth play?
It's a bit early to say whether they should be bidding for something in Brazil because they've got a lot of integration going on at the moment from the businesses that they've already been buying. But often it's difficult to choose your timing of acquisitions because sometimes things present themselves to you. But we do expect Walmart to continue to be an M&A player across the world and possibly in the U.S. going forward as well.
Neil, thanks so much for joining us. Neil Currie there talking about Walmart.